Hello, my name is Daniel Fikert, and I am going to talk a little bit about some rules that are implemented in my school where I teach today. So three rules that we use that I think are useful. The first one is no food should be taken out of the lunchroom. I think this is a good rule because it keeps students from taking candy bars and pop and chips and other things back to classrooms that could spill and could be or maybe thrown in the hallway and not used in the proper place. So food should stay in the lunchroom. The second one is to only use clear reusable water bottles in classrooms. So for example, this would be an acceptable water bottle. It's clear. You can see through it. I can see that there's a clear liquid in here. The little plastic disposable water bottles aren't allowed because they're crinkly, and I think we all remember bottle flipping, which thankfully passed. But they lead to distractions, is what I'm trying to say. So I think that's a good rule that we should keep upholding as well. The next one is that cell phones should not be out and should not be a distraction while in school. So everybody knows students have cell phones, teachers have cell phones, but you don't see a teacher up in front of a classroom, hopefully, with their phone out, texting, their friend, in the middle of a lesson. So students shouldn't be texting their friends in the middle of a lesson as well. They need to be paying attention to the teacher. So as long as phones are not out, they're not a distraction, meaning they're not going off, we're going to be okay. And I think that can kind of vary teacher by teacher, but an overall building rule of phones should not be out and they should not be a distraction is a good thing. For a long time, we had phones should stay in their lockers, but then kids would still bring their phones. You could see them in their pockets, but they weren't using them, so were they breaking the rule? So I think phones shouldn't be out, shouldn't be a distraction, and we should be good to go. Okay, three rules that I think cause problems or that we could fix or enforce better. The first one is tardies or late policy. Many students think that they can just kind of show up to class whenever they want. So commonly you have students walking in a minute or two late just because they were messing around in the hallway. And we really don't have a school-wide policy for this, but I think that something should be implemented, just some kind of maybe like a Google form or Google Doc where you fill out a student's name when they're tardy, and you send it, and then the entire school can access it. So it's basically keeping track of how many tardies each student has for all of their classes. Once a student reaches 3, they could be assigned a detention. Once they reach 5, they could be assigned a Saturday school. Once they reach 7, it could be an in-school suspension. And I don't know, that maybe that's too harsh, but something needs to be done where there are steps that are taken more severe as a student gets more and more tardies. Because at least at the school where I teach, arriving at class on time isn't the biggest priority for a lot of students. Okay, another rule I think that we could implement better are the bathroom breaks or roaming the halls. So a lot of students commonly ask to use the restroom in my class. At the beginning of the year, I did a good job of not allowing them to go unless there was an absolute emergency, but as time went on, I let more and more students go. So again, I think it should just be a common rule for the school that students don't use the bathroom during class time. They have time during the passing periods to use the restroom, and that only bathroom breaks are only allowed in cases of emergency. And if students think that they have an emergency every day, again, maybe there's a couple students that you could put on some kind of a tracking system where they're only allowed to use the restroom one time a day. And all teachers know that. Okay, another and the final here rule that I think we could do a better job at implementing is the laptop policy. So we have computer carts at the school where I teach in Elkhorn, and usually computer carts have 25 computers, and most classes, if you're a teacher using a laptop cart, you're going to need all of those laptops. So sometimes students come in study halls when teachers have a free period to borrow a computer. And then instead of walking the computer all the way back down to that teacher's room, they'll just kind of put it in the library or they'll put it on another laptop cart. Well, when that teacher goes to teach again the next period, they only have 24 laptops and now a student doesn't have one. So this happens more times than not, and I think that a rule should be placed that students who take the computer put it back in the cart where they got it and they should plug it in so that there's no issues. And really the best way to enforce that is going to be on a teacher-by-teacher basis. What guidelines would I use to establish school rules? I think the overall guidelines should be pretty simple. Be safe, be respectful, and be responsible. Be safe. Don't run in the halls. Don't throw things. It's really common sense stuff, but a lot of things can follow under be safe. Be respectful. Call teachers Mr. and Mrs. Don't swear in class. Listen when others are talking. Again, you can extend that to a lot of different things. Be responsible. So turn in your homework on time. Arrive to class on time. Let teachers know when you're going to be gone. Complete quality work. again, I think if you're safe, respectful, and responsible, you can extend those rules where you see fit. Now, bureaucracy. So the idea of bureaucratic organization is credited to German thinker Max Weber in the early 20th century. While bureaucracy is commonly considered a bad thing today, in many cases, Weber's ideas of bureaucracy should have been, of what bureaucracy should be, have been misconstrued in our society. Bureaucracy is still used in many schools, I think, because it gives a clear hierarchy of power from the school board all the way down through the superintendent, to the directors, to the principal, to the teachers, and eventually all the way down to the students and parents as well. In an ideal bureaucracy, communication takes place both up and down the chain of command, but a lot of times we view bureaucracy as a top-down approach, where the higher levels of power are telling the lower lower levels of power what to do, and there's not a lot of communication up and down that chain of command. I don't think bureaucracy itself is a bad thing. However, in many ways, it's starting to get outdated. Teachers today don't really feel like their voices are heard a lot of times in strong bureaucracies. And I also think that teachers have the capability and desire to be more powerful advocates for student learning in their classrooms, and therefore should have the power to make decisions that they feel will benefit their students without having to work through the chain of command every single time. Weber's beliefs are still alive and well in my school. However, because I think teachers treat one another a lot of times along this bureaucracy. So teachers that have been there 5, 10, 15 years feel that they're a little bit higher up on this hierarchy than a first-year teacher like myself. And while that's not always a bad thing, I think sometimes it is. And I think that many teachers also feel that their voices don't always get heard by administration, and that administration kind of just tells them what to do sometimes. And so I feel like that's where the bureaucratic strategies are still implemented in my school. Thanks.